What's up, everybody? I'm Avatage, and welcome to a new episode of the HLTB podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my fellow co-host, Paula, aka Pokepaw.
Hello, everybody.
Today, we'll be doing our usual discussion of what we've beaten and what we've been playing. No retirements this week, which is maybe a good thing.
Maybe.
Yeah. Then we're going to discuss some our thoughts on gaming droughts and gluts, and when you've got too many games to play or when you just can't find anything at all. Then we're going to round it up with another run of our guessing game where I'm going to get quizzed and hopefully earn some points that I much need. And that'll pretty much do us for the day. So let's kick it off with Paula. What have you beaten recently?
Okay, so I beat a couple of smaller games. The first one being the Runemaster's Diary, which, by the way, is a game that a friend of mine made. And he made it like by himself entirely, and I very much respect that. That being said, I actually like the game, though I feel like a couple of things could have been done better, mainly like tied to the story a little bit, like some dialogue was iffy. But overall, I had fun with it. Would I recommend it to everyone and anyone? That is a hard one because it has like some quirks that I feel like not everyone is gonna enjoy, but those who enjoyed it are gonna love it. So first of all, my gaming session of this one started by being completely and utterly lost because I decided that it was a good idea to split like a game that lasted like an hour and something into 2 sessions, very far apart from each other. So I got lost. Thankfully, the map isn't that big, so I could just fumble my way through it. Though I would have loved to have like any kind of direction or reminder of what I was supposed to do. That is like one thing that I would tell my friend to include in his next game if he does happen to follow up the Runemaster's Diary. More on that later. And I was actually very close to finishing the game because the only thing that I was missing was the last battle of the game, and then like the story ending sequence of it.
Okay.
And so yeah, like the overall structure of how the battle works can be a little bit confusing at times because you don't select like one move, you select like a series of moves at one time. So you kind of like make a chain attack in a way, and the total damage to you will depend on how you chain these attacks together. For the main character Mac, I didn't find that much use of having like options because I wasn't really able to make him like do his second moveset more than once because you actually need certain items to make a specific move. So for example, for you are able to stun enemies, but you need a stone for it or a rock. So if you haven't picked up a rock, you may be actually fucked in some of these encounters, which I was at some point. But even if you only have like the basic moveset, my friend actually did a very good job in giving you a way of actually beating each one of the game's enemies, even if you didn't have like the best items around to make like the most damage possible. So that is pretty much what's the word for it? I'm forgetting my English, damn it. Well, I thank him a lot for that because at one point I was seriously worrying that I might be a soft lock on my progress,
Yeah.
but then realized it was a matter of making the enemy attack one of my units. So it seems this game has some kind of aggro mechanic. So the last unit that may damage to a specific enemy is more often than not the one that's being attacked. So if you can play with that, you can play with that in your favor. Finally, the last segment of the story was actually like my favorite part of the story. Like the beginning of the game felt a little bit forced, but the end of the game felt like legitimately very, very um, uh, uh, like impactful in a way. So I feel like his storytelling got better as the game went on. And finally, he kind of like set up a possible sequel to the game. It ended up in a bit of a cliffhanger at the very end. So I am hopeful that he will be motivated enough to make the second part of this tale. Unless he just wanted to leave it like open-ended and make everyone hate him for it. But anyway, the second game that I beat, and this one I beat in a single session, which, by the way, someone needs to congratulate me on this one because I got the game, I played the game, and I finished the game in like the same couple of hours. This doesn't happen like every day.
Yeah, that's an achievement.
Some games just rot in backlog hell for a while before I remember I had them. So A Tiny Sticker Tale is a game that I played on one of, I think was like second to last Steam Next Fest or Steam Games Fest. I don't remember the name of it. But it is a very, very adorable and wholesome game where you play as a little, I guess a donkey or a mule. I think it's a donkey because of the ears.
Awesome.
And you have the power to turn things and people into stickers and create it around in a little journal. Which, by the way, it is like the art style is adorable. So the concept is even more adorable and the gameplay is absolutely endearing.
Nice.
And in this game, like you have an end goal. I'm not gonna say it though. Yeah, like because the story isn't like that grandiose, so spoiling like anything would be spoiling the whole story at this point. But the main mechanic is that you can like bring things from one screen to another. Like for example, trees. You can just put a couple of trees in your little journal, go to another screen and like reorganize like all the vegetation there, make it look like however you want.
Cool.
So for example, if an NPC asks you to find a certain amount of fish, you can just, well, first of all, you need a fishing rod, but having a fishing rod, you're able to manually like drop the sticker of the fishing rod in a lake and fish, well, the fish. And then instead of just talking to the NPC and say, hey, I got the fish, you get to manually like get the fish to your to the pond they want to decorate. So it has like a lot of inventory management, especially like in the early game before you get like because there's an upgrade. Before you get the upgrade, you really have to think, what are you taking with you? Because in one hand, you don't want to backtrack the screens all the time, even though there isn't like that big of a map, but still it can get a little bit cumbersome. But at the same time, like you don't want to carry stuff that you're not gonna use like in a while.
Yeah.
Which I did end up doing anyway. Like because everything like looks so cute and some things like just look useful, so I just carried it with me until I finally got my tent and was able to decorate my tent with all the crap I got. but yeah, you have to be consciously like making that decision of what you're carrying with you and what can wait for later.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall the game only took me like a couple of hours to beat. The only reason that allowed me to just fit in one sitting, but anyway. But I highly recommend it. Like, it isn't that expensive. Um, there's like a couple of good hours of entertainment. If you think the price isn't worth it, like for that short of a game, I understand it, but this one is really worth it because of the overall like production value behind all of it. Like, it really works. Like, the only thing that kind of like got stupid at some point, there's like a tennis mini game,
Right.
and I managed to get the ball trap in a corner, and I had to just grab the NPC that allowed me to play the mini game, put it in my sticker journal, and then put him back into the map to respawn the tennis stuff. And that's all it takes to fix it. Like, it's really well made in like
Yeah.
all things considered. So yeah, what have you beaten?
Well, I've just beat a couple of games this week, which are both fairly short. Because, well, I mean, the short answer is I've been upgrading my PC, so I haven't been playing as much as I usually would. So one game I played is a game called Storm Boy, which is a game that I feel like it's only worth Australians who know the story playing, because Storm Boy is a movie and it's a book that it's set in Australia. It's actually set near where I live. It's in the same state that I'm in. And it's about a guy basically remembering his childhood and when he rescued and raised a pelican on the beach, and his relationship with the pelican, and it also touches on indigenous themes and ideas about nature and that sort of thing, which is cool. And it's a classic story in Australia that most people have grown up hearing at one point or another. I don't know if it really has made it anywhere else in the world, but I'd be surprised if it has, to be honest.
It hasn't made it
'Cause it's
here
just-
at the release.
yeah, it's just one of those like local stories that everyone kind of knows. And there's a movie that was made, I think, in the 70s, and they've just made a new one that came out in 2019, but the original was like ages ago, so it's quite the classic. So I saw there was a game version of it, but it was ultimately disappointing because it's kind of a crap game.
Oh.
It's the kind of game that makes, because of the historical significance of the story in Australian culture, it's one of those games that you feel like the government kind of gave someone a grant to make because of its significance, but it's kind of short and doesn't really do it justice. It's kind of a shit game, but it's also not a very good representation of the story. So it kind of fails on all points, other than the fact that, it is a game, someone made it, and it's out, so fair enough. And it is cheap, and, they're not asking too much for it. But the way the story goes is essentially in the game, you walk along the beach, and the story gets told through voiceover, or not even voiceover, but just text on the screen. And then you go to a new scene and you walk along the beach and the story gets told through text on the screen. And as you go, you kind of encounter mini games where, like, you'll stop and there's a bit where you find your raft. So you go rafting out onto the ocean and you can dive into the ocean and swim around underwater and find corals and plants and things. There's another mini game where you find some baby pelicans, which is part of the story, but you have to like throw food at them, and it's literally like remember that game? It came out when like smartphones were new, and you like flick balls of crumpled up paper into a wastebasket. It reminded me of that, but you're flicking fish into the mouths of pelicans.
Mhm.
So I forget what that game was called, but it doesn't matter. So there's lots of little different mini games like that. I think there's about 12 of them all up or something, and that's kind of the meat of the gameplay for the game. And the rest of it is walking around reading the story, or a very shortened version of the story, because it's obviously not that long. And yeah, it's just, unfortunately, the controls are a bit janky in the mini games, and I wasn't quite sure. Sometimes they contradicted itself as well. Like in one mini game, maybe, and I'm kind of making this up, but to illustrate the point, in one mini game, maybe you press space to jump, but then the next mini game you press shift to jump.
Oh.
And so they kind of changed things like that as well, because it just wasn't very well designed. So yeah, I don't recommend anyone go out and buy the game version of Stormboy unless you're absolutely obsessed with the story. I picked it up just for a pure little nostalgia thing to see what has happened with that story, but I don't think it would be all that enticing to anyone else. So yeah, I played it though and I finished it. Don't really recommend it. The other one I've kept playing the Cube Escape collection, which is from the Rusty Lake games. I just played one recently. I played The Mill, which I think is perhaps the last Cube Escape one before I'm recommended to go play another game. I think actually Rusty Lake Hotel, I think, is the next one I need to play. According to the developer, as in playing it in the order you should play them in to have everything kind of make sense a bit. As much as they do make sense. Because like The Mill I really enjoyed, but instead of being stuck in like one room, you're in a mill, funnily enough, and there's like 3 levels to it. And so you're solving puzzles and activating things across multiple levels. Obviously I don't want to give anything away, but it's just as weird as the others. There's dead bodies and people in cupboards and weird, shadowy, creepy, devil-looking dudes that pop up and scare you. But still very, very cool. I'm really enjoying these games because they're just... I've never played anything like them, to be honest. And I like that. So,
and I'm not sure there's anything like them.
Yeah. I can't think of anything. I mean, outside of it being like a point-and-click puzzle game, but the theming and the presentation and everything is just, it's very, very good, very, very original, and very interesting. And I'm looking forward to getting into a non-Cube Escape game when I get to the next one, because I can just check. I do have a list somewhere.
Yeah, I think you should, after The Mill, you have to play the Rusty Lake games.
Yeah, it's got The Mill, then Rusty Lake Hotel.
Yeah.
Then it's got a couple more Cube Escape, and then Rusty Lake Roots, and then another Cube Escape, and then Rusty Lake Paradise, and then the newer ones, basically.
I might have to replay the whole Rusty Lake Cube Escape franchise because I originally just played the Rusty Lake games, and then went with the Cube Escape. Well, not that it necessarily makes sense if you play it in the correct order, but I guess there's an overall lore to the series.
Yeah, and like I'm just going on this list because it's a list that I found on Reddit, which was also on the developers page, where they've put this list together saying we recommend you play it in this order. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I don't know how much it's helping, but I'm hoping when I play Rusty Lake Hotel, which is separate from the Cube Escape games, that it might add a bit more to it. But either way, I'm just enjoying myself no matter what. So yeah, I finished The Mill. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 6th Cube Escape game I've played so far. And the next one will be Rusty Lake Hotel. So hopefully I'll be talking about that soon as well because I want to play it. But yeah, that's just those 2 for me this week. Like I say, I've been upgrading my PC, but I might talk about that a little bit later. Also, neither of us have retired anything, which is cool because it means we've completed or kept playing what we're playing.
So. But at least we're enjoying it enough not to drop it.
Yeah. So what have you been playing recently, Paula?
I've been playing very mixed stuff now that I see it like all together. The first game is one that I've been playing for a while, which is Piofiore Faded Memories. I just went through arguably the my least favorite route and my favorite route consecutively. So the first route, I guess the fourth route that I went through in the game is Orlok's route, who is I'm just gonna say like a minion of some guy in power from the church who wants more power.
Right.
So he's pretty much been deceiving this disciple of the church. He's supposed to be like he's supposed to have like a specific role in the overall story, but he's told he has another kind of role, so he doesn't know like what his original role is. So in that regard, there's a lot of unnecessary bloodshed in this world. Like there's so much death here that I mean it is expected, I guess, with the kind of game this is. But still, it has surpassed my expectations of the genre, I guess. Here
Cool.
you have like the other side of the game, like why is really so important, like to these mafias and the church and all that jazz. But also you get the fuller picture of why some specific mafia guys were after her in the first place. So I guess it adds more to that part of the story and less to the overall picture. And then we have the route that adds to the overall picture, that is Guilford's route. Guilford is the boss of the Visconti, which is the mafia that branch out of the Falsone because they didn't like their overly traditional ways. They are also the ones that deal the most with foreigners, especially like with American traders and stuff like that. So that made Gilbert a prime suspect of counterfeiting money. So the actual big thing on the game is that there is like a conspiracy going on in Berlin, and there are like people working behind the shadows to pretty much either take out the mafia or trying to get their way and make like some grandiose thing for Europe and try to bring down the dollar and stuff like that. So, of course, the guy dealing with Americans the most is the one that gets pulled into this as a scapegoat, I guess. And this has to be like the coolest road because everyone works together. Like the Three Mafias, like, well, this is not actually like the coolest route. This is like the second coolest route, but more on that later. So the mafia like kind of work together to find like these. I'm gonna say the ringleader of the whole operation. And the thing is that well, they have to work on setting Gilbert free in the sense of, well, he's not actually like detained like this whole time, but you have like 3 months to, was it 3 months? No, that's the 3 months for the other thing. But you have like a specific amount of time before the trial of counterfeiting him, allegedly counterfeiting money. But also you have to find the person who actually is counterfeiting money. And in that regard, you have Team 1 who is like trying to set Gilbert free during this trial on the last day of the operation. Team 2 is going to the factory where they're counterfeiting money to get the plates and the what's the name of it? The evidence of money being counterfeit. Yep. And you have Team 3 that is hunting down the culprit. And the way they set this up, so Piofiore is like very particular in the sense that you are able to see like scenarios that are happening like at the same time I think you're currently going through. So you get like a little alert, I guess, and you can like just press a button and jump to the other scenario and get the. By the way, depending of
That's
which
cool.
scenarios you read and which ones you don't, that can also affect which ending you get and stuff.
Nice.
So you not only have to care for the affection of the character and the secondary attribute of the character, which by the way, for Orlog is tolerance and for Gilbert is trust. You also have to keep in mind that depending on the side scenarios that you read, you might actually influence the ending you get. Which, by the way, I don't think it is just that much, except for Orlog's route. Like, that is the one route where the less, the better it is. But yeah, like having like these three mafia groups like working together and then like having like this jump off scene during the whole operation makes it
Yeah.
so it feels like there's more action on the screen even though you're just reading words. But
hmm
also it gives that sense of everything is happening like at tandem, like, and they are like really working together, and also that feeling of overall chaos which is going down in in this town and everything at the same time. So I really really
Cool.
like the climax of this route. Like they made a visual novel feel action packed.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, there's one route left technically because each route like kind of like splits into the finale ending and the secret route ending. So I'm gonna say it's
hmm
like a route and a half. And then I have to go through all of the other endings because the developers were kind enough to include like a completion percentage for each one of the routes and an overall completion percentage. So my completion itself is
Nice.
like, well, fuck it. I don't usually go for all the endings unless they unlock a CG or unless there's a completionist thing. And they do both here. So yeah. And I think I'm
Right.
gonna just ending hunt before going to the grand finale because I feel the I feel that it leaves like a better aftertaste, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that is your favorite Faded Memories. I'm gonna try to like play something in between this game and the second Piofiore game. Otherwise, it's just gonna be Piofiore from here to the end of the year, and I don't think people want that. Um,
It sounds pretty good.
it is pretty good, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I feel are gonna trigger people because, again, it's a mafia game. It has like everything from human trafficking to torture.
Yeah, right.
Though it's still like a fan favorite in the Romanian community. I don't know how, but anyway. Um, the other game that I've been playing, and this one is gonna come out of left field because I don't think
Mm.
I've played anything like this like in a long while. It is Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction. And
Yeah.
I've been playing
Weird.
this. Hmm? What?
Weird. Yeah.
So, um, for a while, my boyfriend having wanted to play something together, and he's really, really, really likes Diablo 2. So at the end of the day, I was like, hey, why don't we just play Diablo 2 Classic and go with the expansion pack? Because there's a class I really, really, really want to play from there.
Mm.
And so my character is named Lucas, and he is a druid.
Nice.
And he's playing a barbarian named Dave. You can get the reference there if you are not too young, I guess. But the thing is that we're playing like over the Battle.net server. And the funny thing is that each time we log in, we get like we maintain the overall progress of the story, but the map gets remixed a little bit. Like,
interesting.
yeah, because if you're playing like alone on like in a single player campaign, you keep the map. It doesn't get randomized each time you get in. But for some reasons, on Battle.net, you enter Battle.net with your character that has the progress save, like the waypoints that you've unlocked, the caves that you've explored, and where in the story you are. By the way, we're on the last mission of Act 1, but the map doesn't get saved per se. Like you get a brand new map and you go in with your character and you get like all the stuff that you unlock. Thankfully, the personal stash that you get like on the on the encampments, like on the settlement, sorry, you get your secret, like your private stash there with all the stuff you've collected. So that is a good thing, I guess. But the map gets all scrambled. So it's like playing I don't know no, not better.
Like a roguelite?
Yeah, like a roguelike at some point, because each time we begin a new session, we have to see like, okay, what if we explore this place again? Because God knows what we're gonna find, right?
Does that affect then like enemies and loot and stuff?
At the very least, each time we enter, I don't know if the loot regenerates in a way. I know that bosses regenerate once you leave the area.
Okay.
And you can farm the bosses.
Right.
But things like treasure chest also regenerate each time you go out of the server and then go in.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that has been fun. Also, it's very funny because we tend to go into every single cave we find on our way. The first cave we actually found, we tried to go in. We almost got obliterated. So we left it like for later.
Yeah.
And a couple of levels later, we just went there, obliterated everything instead, and got all the goodies at the end, which was very nice. There's been a couple of instances where we have to like go back, regroup, and try not to die for dear life. Especially like in the last area we were in, that is kind of like a church and has some barracks in it. And that wasn't pretty because there was like the room of fucking death with like very strong skeletons. So the first time like he went alone, which was a mistake. Then I went in alone with my pack of wolves. And that was a mistake. I don't know how I didn't die. Like I got like just a sliver of health left. And I was like, look, drinking potions like I'll to save my life. At some point, we have to just teleport back to the village because we didn't have any health potions left. We managed to beat the boss of the area, which was nice.
Nice.
As I said, we're at the end of chapter Act 1, sorry. And right now, like the way you can build your or like customize your unit or like your druid in this case, you have like 3 paths to go through. Like you can get elemental skills, which I guess are more like the usual magic for sorcerers.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also get the shape-shifting tree. So my character is a werewolf right now.
Nice.
But also you can get the summoning tree, so I can get a pack of wolves too.
Awesome.
So I'm a werewolf with a pack of wolves and a crow that just like super good enemies.
Very cool.
So yeah, that has been a lot of fun. By the way, at some point we tried playing Diablo 3, but it's almost like the game played itself in a way because it was like considerably easier than Diablo 2.
Yeah, right.
Like we didn't even use the health potions in that game. But here they are your lifeline. If you don't have potions, you're fucking dead. So yeah, that's it about Diablo 2. Hopefully next week I'll be in Act 2 and nowhere near close to death. The last game that we've been playing, we kind of like been playing together too with my boyfriend, is Dr. Pikachu on the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
And we are on chapter 2 of the game. So the overall story is like similar to the movie. Like you play as Tim and you find this talking Pikachu, and it seems that you're the only one who can understand this talking Pikachu. So you start working together with this Pikachu, who is seemingly like the Tim's lost father's Pikachu, and just try to get a hold of Tim's father, or like try to find his whereabouts. So in the first chapter, you just meet Pikachu and solve a little mystery together. Like some even have been going berserk and stealing stuff. And there's Pokemon drama in the park that you have to solve. Once you solve that, you get to the Vicar Detective Agency, where it's like, oh no, we are looking for that. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. But of course, since this is the main character of the video game, you can't just stand doing nothing. That would be illegal and dangerous. But you start like trying to find clues of where Tim's father is, regarding like the last case he worked on before disappearing. And right now I'm in a cave full of ghost type Pokemon and a Glalie, which I don't know why he lives in that cave. Like, I don't know. I don't make the rules. But again, the fun part is that Pikachu talks with the Pokemon and Jim talks with the humans. So you can get information from both worlds. That's very fun.
Nice.
The game is nothing like the story or the writing. Or like the game is nothing to write home about. It's just a fun little silly game. But still like a fun little silly game to pass the time.
Yeah, cool.
Not something I would play on my lonesome, but since we're playing it together, it's more fun that way because we just remember about the game at that point. And that's enough about me. What have been you playing? What have been you playing? I don't know if I'm speaking words right.
Yeah, we know what you mean. Like I say, I haven't been playing much, like my usual kind of bouncing around, which, but I've been playing Poems and Codes still. I've almost finished it. I'm up to the last kind of section. Don't really have much else to say about it. It's really good. If you like that kind of thing, if you like deciphering bits of text and then reading poems, then it's still very good. What I do like is that, like I mentioned last time as well, I really like the amount of puzzles and content that there is in this game, because it had the potential of being just a bit. From playing the demo, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was quite short. However, thankfully, there's like loads and loads and loads of games. I'm just looking at my playtime now, and I've almost finished it. And I've probably got like 3 or 4 hours left of it, and I'm already like 23 hours in. So there's definitely lots of poems and codes to read and decipher. So it's very much worth it in that sense. Obviously, it's not the kind of game that everyone's going to get into, but if you do, there's a lot there to like. But the big one that I have been playing is Cities Skylines 2, which came out in the last week as of recording this. Interestingly, I have mixed feelings about this game. I was very excited about it because I very much enjoyed the first one. It's like the new standard SimCity kind of game. And did a lot right where SimCity was doing things wrong when the first one came out. But this second one, I think it kind of annoys me because it falls into that category of game where it's been released too early, it's a bit undercooked, there's a lot of bugs,
Oh no.
the performance is atrocious. Like, just getting it to run at a decent frame rate is a nightmare. And you just have to test different settings on or off and change things, because it's not about, medium, high or low graphics. It's depending on what particular setting isn't optimized properly, so you need to turn that off so that you can then get a regular frame rate. Otherwise, it'll just tank itself all the time. And, I've even been playing it at times where it's become unplayable because of the frame rate dropping so much. And then it's ended up crashing and stuff a couple of times. So I kind of got annoyed with it. As I mentioned, though, I have since upgraded my PC, and that was one of the first games I loaded just to, see what a new processor does. And it seemed much more stable on my new hardware.
Which is nice.
It's nice, but I also don't think that should be how to get your game working. So, not everyone is going to go out and buy a new CPU just to get your game working. So, plus from playing it as well, I don't want to bag on it entirely. Like, it's still a good game. It's City Skylines, really, with a bit of a new coat of paint. But there are lots of little differences and stuff. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, it does feel like you're playing the same game. It's in broad strokes, it's very, very similar to the first City Skylines. And a lot of the differences are very, very minute. And they'll probably make people happy if you're really into making every little spot in your city customized and perfect. But if you just want to make a big city really quick and kind of fuck around, you won't notice many of the changes at all. Because there's things like when you're placing roads now, instead of just lining it up with the road, it can line up with different lanes on the road, or you can have it line up with buildings, which is a good example, whereas they didn't have that before, where you'd have to build a road and then attach a building to the road. Now you can just throw a building down and then build a road that snaps to that building. So that's kind of convenient when you're doing different planning. But other stuff that they've done is, I'm struggling to think of them because it's not that much. But well, now they've got every road contains power lines and water pipes, so you don't have to lay them all manually. So that's a good thing. You can lay them manually, and you need to when you don't have roads taking you somewhere. But it's kind of nice that you can just kind of plug into the roads from your water plant or whatever, and just know it'll go throughout the entire road network without having to, add pipes and do all that kind of busy work, which isn't really fun anyway. And it's not, laying down pipes in a city isn't exactly that satisfying. It just kind of serves a purpose, and that's it. So it's nice they've kind of streamlined that sort of stuff. There are new things as well, like there's some you can place car parks, which you couldn't do before. You can place, they've got a specific roundabout tool, which rather than drawing roads in a circle, you can plop a roundabout on an intersection and it will automatically calculate lanes and all that kind of stuff. There are tools where you can get into more details with road signs and stuff, so you can decide to put stop signs on an intersection or traffic lights or that sort of stuff to basically fine-tune how traffic moves around your city. But even then, it's a little bit unsatisfying because this is going to sound really detailed and stupid, but say you've got a main road that's your big road that's a main arterial road for your city, and then it hits a intersection, like a crossroad. So you've got two smaller roads coming in from either side. Ideally, I'd want to put a stop sign on those two small roads, but keep the main road open so they don't have to stop at all.
Yeah.
So that traffic can flow down the big main road, but then the people coming in from the side lane have to kind of wait until there's a gap and off they go. You can't do that. You have to put a stop sign on every single part of the intersection.
Why?
So, because you can't edit it. It's just the whole intersection or nothing. And it's the same with traffic lights as well. It's the whole thing or nothing. So that's what I mean by like they've put more details in, and it feels like they've basically looked at the most popular mods for the previous game and tried to put them into the base game a bit, which isn't a bad idea. But the previous game nowadays is amazing because of all the mods. There are so many mods that basically just fix everything you could ever think of wanting to fix in that game. So then playing this one kind of does feel a bit undercooked as well, because it's not as versatile as the previous one is when you add mods. I'm sure this game will eventually get mods as well, and they do support mods very well, so that's a good thing. But as far as like picking it up on day one, there's so many optimization issues. There are no mods, or very few at least initially. The changes aren't that great. So it's kind of like I was playing it and having a good time, but thinking, man, I'd love to go play City Skylines 1 again. Which I don't think is the point of a sequel.
I don't think that is something a sequel would want.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to put that on the box. Like, it'll make you want to play the first game. But I think it's got potential, and I think a game like this you kind of have to accept is kind of laying the foundation for what it will be next year or in a couple of years, when they've ironed out some optimization stuff, when there's heaps more mods and people have, made a mod so that you can put stop signs on whatever side of the road you want or whatever. So yeah, that is fine, I think. And I think that's kind of where they come from when they make this game anyway. They know that that's kind of what's going to happen. But the optimization stuff is the stuff that kind of annoys me the most, because I just hate that about games these days, where they get put out and fixed later. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But yeah, other than that, City Skylines 2 it's good. It's just kind of, it didn't amaze me in the way I wanted to be amazed, or it didn't excite me, I guess. I'm not sitting there losing hours and hours and hours to building big, crazy cities like I did in the first game. I just kind of have played it a bit, gone, yeah, I wish that didn't crash a couple of times, and then not played it much. But I might play it more now with my new setup, so that because the optimization issues won't be as bad. So hopefully. We'll see. The other game I thought I'd mention, just because it is literally probably the only other game I've been playing, is some more Baldur's Gate 3, which continues to be really, really good. I'm still playing with my friends, so totally co-op, and we are still in Act 2. We're taking our time, apparently, because we're about 76 hours in now. And yeah, we're in Act 2, and there's definitely an Act 3, if not more. I don't know. I haven't looked it up. I'm not looking ahead for this sort of stuff. But it's really good. One of the things that I really like about it is, despite the occasional glitch and all that kind of thing, I think the huge strength of this game is based on not only how detailed the environments are and the locations, like everywhere you go is interesting, and there's stuff to look at, and there's story behind everything you see. Like, you find journals, and there's purpose to each location. So you'll find like a weird building in the middle of nowhere, and as you explore, you'll be like, oh, some weird wizard was here doing tests on gnomes or whatever, and torturing them or whatever, and stuff like that. And you find evidence of it around the place, and it might be long abandoned, but there's a story behind every place, and there's a reason why everything is there, which is really cool.
Uh-huh.
It feels really handcrafted and purposefully built, which is very nice. It's the opposite of bullshit procedurally generated maps, because it's so detailed, and everything is like has a place and a purpose, which is fantastic. And similarly, the other big thing that has kept me enjoying it is the characters and the NPCs and their stories, and how well they're written and voice acted and everything. Like, the characterizations are just really, really good. And there are lots of really cool, not just enemies, but just NPCs, or, other characters that potentially could end up being enemies or friends, or who knows. And I really like that, to the point there's this one bit that we just did, which, no spoilers, I'll keep it spoiler free. But basically we went to a location, we left, and then when we came back, we decided we're going to fight everybody. So when we did, due to reasons, but
Due to
when we
reasons.
did, we came back and we like, said, all right, everyone, we're here to kill you. Let's do it. So the people that we talked to previously, or the characters we talked to previously that we were friends with, they joined the fight as well as our allies. And I really like that kind of stuff where, when we were there the first time, we'd made friends with these guys and talked to them and helped them out with whatever their thing was. And then we left and it's like, okay, cool. See you later, guys. And then something else happened to make us want to come back and fight the big dude there. So we come back and we go to fight them. And so because we'd made friends with these other dudes, they show up and help us. And I just love that kind of thing where it gives more meaning and purpose to the actions you take. Because if we hadn't made friends with them, we'd probably fight them as well. And I really like that kind of stuff because it just kind of makes the world feel a bit more real and a bit more responsive to what you do in it. But the last thing on Baldur's Gate 3 that kind of makes me laugh is that my character has become quite the lover. But for no real reason. Like it's kind of weird. Like I've heard talk about how weird the romance system in Baldur's Gate 3 is, but without even trying, I've now made my way through 3 of our companions. The first one kind of decided that I was all right and, came on pretty strong, and it was a very rough physical relationship. And then someone else is like, I like you too. So I'm like, sure, what about you? And and they're like, yeah, I love you, you're amazing. And then just recently someone else is like, hey, you and me, how about it? And I'm just rolling with it at this point. I'm like, sure, let's do it. And it's just hilarious because like my friends who I've been playing with have been trying to romance other characters that I haven't even talked to. And the latest one was one of them who just decided that they liked me all of a sudden and came up to me and started flirting with me. And I don't know if it's because I've got the most charisma or something, but yeah, it's pretty funny and just stupid.
So one thing about Baldur's Gate 3 that I heard about recently on one of the various YouTube channels that I follow called Leyendas y Videojuegos. This one is in Spanish, sorry. But first of all, they made the characters feel like so much more alive than in other games because each one has a character sheet.
Yes.
And the actors get to also act in a bodysuit.
Ah, nice.
So a lot of the scenes just play out the way that the human actors make it out to be. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The other thing, now that you that you talk about your romantic misadventures in a game, one of the things that they had to patch is that the characters were a little bit too thirsty for everyone's liking.
Oh yeah.
So they had to patch them up to like make them less thirsty in a way.
Well, they're still pretty thirsty as far as I'm concerned. I was playing last night and this happened, so I know there has actually been a patch since then and now, but yeah.
That's kind of funny though.
Oh yeah. And it's hilarious. Like it's all part of good fun, but it's interesting they've done that with the actors as well, because yeah, the characterization and everything is really, really good. And it's that kind of thing as well, like you meet some random character in a random place that you're not expecting. It's not like anyone else has mentioned it or anything, and they turn out that they've got such a good amount of backstory and reason for being there and something they're trying to achieve that you can help them with or not. And yeah, it's so refreshing to always meet characters who are interesting and have a story of their own, and you don't have to necessarily take part, you don't have to engage with them, but we're pretty much, as part of our playthrough, we're just kind of completing the entire map as much as we can. Without following a guide or anything, just as much as we can tell as well. But like on one hand, there's like the main quest where we're past this now, and it's not really a spoiler, but there's a point where everyone's talking about this location called Moonrise Towers, and it's part of the main quest. And so everyone you talk to, no matter what you do, they're like, I need to solve this. I hear that there's a solution at Moonrise Towers. And then you talk to the next person. They're like, I'm trying to hunt down this person. They ran away to Moonrise Towers. And then,
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
yeah. So we're all going, I think we need to go to Moonrise Towers. But of
And
course,
then one of your friends look at you and is like, oh no, what could have possibly gave it away?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, it's fine because fair enough, it's the main quest and they're shoveling you into that tunnel. But you don't have to follow it either. And we are kind of going around talking to everybody and anybody, so they're all kind of mentioning the main path. Like, hey, maybe check out Moonrise Towers. And, so in a way, it was kind of nice because it meant that we could leave Moonrise. When we eventually found where Moonrise Towers was, we're like, okay, cool, we'll come back to this later. We'll explore the rest of the map, have 10 other people tell us to come here, and then we'll come here. So, yeah, it's a bit funny in that way, but it's nice that all the side stories you find and all the things that are off the main path are actually pretty interesting and fun to play and kind of fun to discover as well. It reminds me a bit of the best part of, I think, like Fallout games and even the best part of like Grand Theft Auto games and that kind of thing are the kind of side people you meet who have a story and something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like in GTA, there's I forget what they're called, but they're like basically people who you only encounter them if you run into them on the street at a certain time of day in a certain location, and they'll like stop you and you'll get a cutscene and they'll run up to you and be like, "Hey man, I need your help with whatever," and or this is what I'm doing, or they might try and beg some stuff from you or whatever, and you end up getting caught up in their story. And some of them are quite interesting and in depth and wacky and have nothing to do with the main quest at all, but are some of the most fun kind of aspects of those games. And it's the same thing in Baldur's Gate 3. There's loads of cool side stuff, and even down to there's a lot of benefits from it as well. Like, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but there are certain choices you can make throughout the game, like from the very beginning when you talk to people and do stuff, and they'll have permanent effects on you for the rest of the game. And initially they might not sound like a very good idea. Like, I don't know, let's pretend someone says to you, hey, I want you to shoot yourself in the head. And if you say yes, you might end up getting like some benefit from having been shot in the head that'll last you for the rest of the game. Obviously that is not going to happen. That's not an example, but that kind of idea of thing happens fairly regularly. So there are some choices you make which seem really bad, but end up giving you some roundabout benefit that you might not have had otherwise. Plus, final thought on that, it's also a lot of encounters and things you can kind of potentially talk your way out of as much as just fight people. For instance, there's this one character who, again, not going to spoil, but they basically want, you're in a conversation with them, and if they're trying to convince you to let them basically do an experiment on you.
The usual.
And if you decide to say no, the option is to fight them or say no. Or if you get the right role and you've got the right skills and enough charisma and that kind of thing, you can do what I did, which was I convinced them to do the experiment on themselves, which they ended up doing. And it was hilarious.
Just beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good game in that sense. I'm definitely looking forward to continuing to play it. But like I say, I'll probably be playing this for hundreds of hours because, yeah, my friends and I play a few times a week at most, and we do a few hours at a time. So it's going to take us a while. Finally, the the last game I've been playing is, I like to call it Windows 11, because I've upgraded my computer and I've done a complete reinstall of my operating system and everything. And I hate Windows 11, and I just wanted to say that because, my God, getting it to do what I want it to do, within reason as well, is a nightmare. And if you're hearing this and you're wondering, should I upgrade to Windows 11, stay on Windows 10.
Yeah.
Because it's fine, and Windows 11 doesn't change that much. But yeah, if anyone is interested, I've just basically I had to upgrade my motherboard because it was 10 years old and things were really starting to not work. Like, my USB ports kept fluctuating with power, so anything plugged in would turn on and off just randomly. It's lovely now. I can just plug everything in and it works. So that's fun. But of course, when you replace your motherboard, you also have to replace your CPU and your RAM and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, so this is all a new setup for me at the moment, and I just wanted to mention it mostly to say if the audio sounds a bit weird or whatever, or there's any issues, I apologize, but I'm basically redoing everything at the moment, so who knows? Hopefully it'll end up better in the end. But yeah, that's what I've been playing over the last week, is operating system frustration. Do not recommend.
Do not recommend
many hours
at all.
But let's talk about something completely different and look at our gaming topic for today. We're going to talk about some gaming droughts and gluts, or yeah, when you've got games that take up your time and you forget about everything else, or when you go through those periods of not really knowing what to play and end up jumping around between many different things and nothing really satisfies, and those sorts of experiences. I'll start by saying that the way I play games anyway, is I jump around between games quite a lot. My playing list on HLTB is at like 80 or something at the moment, because if I've started playing something, I'll put it on my playing list until I either decide to retire it or I finish it. So it could stay there a long time if I don't play it for a while, but I still consider it playing. But it's funny because I do tend to jump around a lot. Like I like playing for maybe 1 or 2 hour sessions at most for most games throughout the week or whatever. And so I might play a racing game one day, or later that day I'll play poems and codes and do some code cracking. Or, I like to change it up a bit depending on how I'm feeling, and often depending on how tired I am and how much I want to pay attention. But then every now and then a game comes along that you just load up and that's all I want to play, and I'll play it for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I'll forget everything else. And recently Liza P was that for me, because yeah, once I started playing that, all I wanted to do was play that and play more and get to the end and have a great time. And I just really love that feeling of when you're not playing something and you're kind of thinking about it, and you're thinking about the next time you get to play it, and I wonder if that's going to happen, or I wonder what happens because I did this, or maybe I'll try that next time, or you get a little bit obsessed.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, what do you reckon, Paul?
I mean, considering the huge backlog that I have, like here in How Long to Beat, like I don't really go like through gaming droughts.
Yeah.
I'm actually going through a bit of a gaming glut, especially this year, since I have like less time to play because of uni. But also, there's been a good chunk of releases that I've been interested in. A lot of them automated releases, surprise, surprise. But also like there's Tears of the Kingdom, which by the way I haven't gone back into to in a while. Fire Emblem Engage, which came out like on January. I haven't finished that yet. I'm like in the last 3 chapters. And now that I think about it, there's like 3 games that I bought that aren't Otome that came out this year. A lot of the other games that I bought are like games that have come out like in prior years. Huh. Interesting.
You know what you like.
Yeah. So it's the Otome industry has been growing. Even though Axis hasn't really talked about what they're localizing for next year, like this year between Axis, between Idea Factory International, even Voltage, we've been eating well here. So to the point that I can't get every release like on day one, because that would be way too expensive, sir. Thank you. Like for example, this month we're getting 2 Atomic games. The first one being I forgot the English name, but it's Student of Visitors of Legend. That has been one that I've been waiting for a fucking long time. And the other one is the title is too fucking long, but it's the Otome adaptation. It's kind of like an Otome adaptation of an anime that is based on a light novel. which if I remember correctly, the anime slash title is called "I've Been Reincarnated as a Villainess" in an otome game with only destruction flags or something like that.
Okay.
And it's about a girl that reincarnated in the world of an otome game. She's a villainess and she has to avoid to die pretty much because since she's a villainess, in every ending, like she's the character who in the original visual novel she would get killed um, or like kick off of the country in every single road. So she's trying to avoid that. So the otome game based on that is after she managed to escape every single destruction flag, and now she's like on a pirate ship and there's an adventure there or something like that. I don't know. So those are the otome games coming out this month. Last month we have even it's Tempest Fantasy. The month prior to that, I think we have Red Intel, if I remember correctly. So there's been a lot of otome games coming out, and there's so little time, and all of the otome games take at least 30 hours, even if you're a quick reader, and you have a guide. So there's not enough time for all the games that are coming out, even if you have like a very niche hobby.
Yeah, I mean, this year's been ridiculous for me for games that I'm interested in, but I'll pretty much try anything as well. And having Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, and also being interested in trying pretty much anything, kind of means that there's never not something to play.
Yeah.
Or even try. That's why I've kind of become quite used to the idea of retiring games as well, because otherwise I just end up with way too many games that I'm in the middle of playing. Because there's so many games that I'll try just because and enjoy, but maybe I'll think, I'd rather play something else, so I should retire it. But yeah, there's so much choice. But what I find really interesting is, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes even with a huge backlog, like 3,000 games on Steam to choose from, which is just ridiculous. But I still find myself sometimes sitting down and just going, nothing I want to play. Nothing really jumps out. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It actually happened a lot between this week and last week, where I actually been watching a lot of anime because it was like, you know what, I kind of like something wholesome to play or like something wholesome in general.
Yeah.
But I've been playing a mafia game where everyone dies. And it's like I kind of like want to. I I either end up like replaying something I already played, or going through another media entirely, or the other night where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this game because I got nothing else to play right now.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, sometimes even having like thousands of games that I want to play, or at least hundreds that I'm really, really interested in playing, I'm just like, I'm going to buy this other game and play that instead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, if it's novelty maybe or something like that, but yeah, it feels bad sometimes to know that you've got lots of options but you don't choose any of them.
Yeah, it's kind of weird too, though. Especially since in the scenario of where you're like, hey, I could play this game that has been sitting on my backlog, and I remember being very enthusiastic about when I first started playing, or I could replay this other game for the nth time.
Especially when it's something that's like, it's not necessarily as good as the one you
Yeah.
haven't finished, but it's good enough.
Yeah, it's like the comfort game. We should probably make a topic about that at some point. Let me write that down in the agenda.
Well, it's kind of like there's a bit of that, in like RPGs and stuff, like the whole too good to use kind of thing. Like you keep gathering loot, but you never actually use it because you want to save it for that special occasion. But then
And then the special occasion never comes.
Yeah. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is a classic one. We're constantly picking up scrolls of magic and potions and stuff. And just recently I've started being like, fuck it, I'm using all of these because we never use them and we're carrying around way too much crap. And you keep picking it up. So it's like, yeah, okay, let's just use this stuff. But it's kind of like that with games sometimes for me because there are certain games that I've started, I've really, really enjoyed, and I really, really want to finish, but I haven't because I know there's a time investment or it's almost like the anticipation of playing it is going to be better than if I actually do play it and finish it. I don't know why.
True.
But a classic one of that is Nier Automata for me, where I started playing it and I've played like 10 hours or something and absolutely loved it. It's a fantastic game. But I think I got to a point where I can't remember where I stopped actually, but I stopped and I think I went and just played something else quickly for a change, and I haven't picked it up since. And that was like a few years ago. And the whole time I'm just like, I really want to play this game. I really want to finish Nier Automata because I know it's amazing and I want to see the rest of the game. But I almost don't want to play it because I know I'm not going to play anything else if I do. And I'm going to be annoyed that I can't play it as much as I want to play it because I want to just sit down and play it like all day, every day. And I have other things I need to do.
Yeah.
I've got other commitments, of course. But it's kind of like a self-made drought in a way of the choice is there, but I don't want to like commit myself if I can't commit myself completely. In a way.
It happens to me with Tears of the Kingdom, which, by the way, I was very excited about the launch of the game back in May. Like, I'm almost obsessed with the game. It came out, I played like 40 hours somehow in a week.
Damn.
Or in 2 weeks, I don't know. And I haven't touched it since because like I want to play it, but I wanted to play other stuff too at the same time. But also I can't like let myself dive into a game that is gonna become like a full-time job in the time investment department.
Yeah.
Because I have to study and that's like my actually full-time job at the same right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and I think that's why I kind of favor shorter games these days anyway. But I've heard lots of people say as they get older they prefer shorter games because they've got more commitments and more and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I kind of don't. Like I obviously I've got a lot of priorities that come before gaming, but I don't have, I'm not married and or I don't have children or any of that kind of stuff, which a lot of other people do, which they have to deal with, or like, manage time with, I should say. And, fair enough too. Those sorts of things come first. But I don't have those things. And I still, part of me is like, I just want to play this 2-hour neat little indie experience that's going to make me go, oh, that was cool, rather than looking down the barrel of like 50 hours or something I'm going to want to play like 10 hours at a time or something like that. I don't know why. It's just there's something about me that has changed that. Where at the same time, though, like playing something like Baldur's Gate 3, which is obviously going to take a long time. Because like I say, we're already like 76 hours in, and I'm sure we're going to go over 100, if not closer to 200. But that's kind of different because that's like catching up with friends every few days.
Yeah.
So if I was playing solo, I don't know if I'd be as committed as I am with playing with my friends, because I basically get to hang out with them. We shoot the shit while we play, and we catch up what you've been doing in the last few days or whatever. And it's nice to just hang out with some friends. So I think that makes a lot of difference as well, because I'd rather do that than disappear in my room playing games on my own. So I think that affects that sort of stuff as well, because like no matter how many options you've got, like to think about having droughts and gluts and stuff, but even with so many options and so many choices available to you, it doesn't really change kind of when you go through those times of wanting to play more or less, or what you feel like playing at the time may not actually fit anything that you have as an option.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird thing, and I've seen lots of people talk about it, and I've seen people talk about it on the forums as well, like how to choose the next game to play and all that kind of thing, because it's a weird thing with gaming, isn't it? Like, but I think it's the same with anything. Like, how do you, if you're really into movies, how do you pick what next movie to watch, or if you're really into reading, what books do you read next, or whatever? The time commitment's different, sure, especially with movies, because you can just stick one on, and no matter what, you'll be done in a couple of hours. But
Yeah.
I find I have.
But with games, it's a little bit more difficult in that regard.
Well, I have a similar thing with books, because I do read a fair bit, and I never read as much as I want to, and I'm sure a lot of people have that experience, and they probably don't play as many games as they'd like to, or don't have as much time to play games as they'd like to. But so choosing the next one is always like, what am I going to spend my limited time on now? And yeah, it can be a difficult decision.
Yeah, don't mind me as I look at the pile of books that is on the shelf right now. Most of them unread.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got a couple of bookcases full of books that are all books I haven't read, because the ones I have read are in boxes in the shed. So yeah,
It's better to
rough.
have the option rather than not have it.
Totally. I mean, and it's a fortunate position to be in, with no doubt, being spoiled for choice. I'd rather that than not having any choice. So
True.
But I think it's really nice, and I think everyone who's a gamer can relate to that feeling of, when you do find a game that, even if it is big and takes up a lot of time, it's all you want to do. You're on it, and that's all you're going to do, because you're just like, I'm into this, and I'm going to play it, and that's all I want to play. And that's a really nice feeling when you get that, because, yeah, it's just easy, and you're always feeling like doing it, and it's just fun, really.
Now that I think about it, I kind of had like a situation where I was kind of like in a glut, but in a drought.
Yeah.
Because when the Switch first came out, I got two of the games that it launched with. There was Sneaker and Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
And I played a hell lot of Breath of the Wild, and it had like no competition on the Switch for months, now that I remember. So it's kind of like nothing that was coming out was really catching my eye, but it was like, I don't care because I have Breath of the Wild, and I put so much time into that game.
Yep.
So it's kind of
Absolutely.
like interesting, because there was like kind of a drought because not everyone was on board with the Switch yet. And by everyone, I mean the developers.
Yeah.
But I really didn't need anything else for a while, because the game it launched with was fucking monstrous.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a thing that caught my mind, I guess. I don't know. I was about to Google something and I forgot what. And I'm pretty sure it was relevant to the conversation, but it was just went poof. Anyway.
It might come back to you. But I mean, I prefer that, where you kind of get hooked on one game and you're enjoying it so much that you just want to keep playing it. I prefer that to kind of just jumping around, playing whatever, and not really getting that invested either way.
Definitely.
But not that that's a bad thing, because like I say, I do that all the time. It's pure entertainment anyway. And so if I'm having a nice time, or I just am relaxing, or having a bit of escapism and, de-stressing from my day or whatever, then maybe I'm playing like at the moment, I'm dipping in and out of Need for Speed, what's the one? The Run. And it's not the greatest racing game ever, but it's kind of when I want to not think too hard and just enjoy myself for half an hour or an hour or so at a time, I'll throw it on, do some races, have some fun, turn it off and not really think about it again. So I'm definitely not invested in it. In fact, it's kind of not even the best Need for Speed game I've ever played. But that's okay, because it's serving its purpose. It's entertaining me for a short amount of time at a time. It's interactive rather than, the reason I'd rather play that than perhaps watch TV is because I want to do something interactive. I don't want to just sit and watch something. So, you know, I think there's places for everything, so long as, you know, you can still enjoy yourself one way or the other. But it's really nice when you get something come along that just kind of, you know, blows your mind a little and gets you a little hooked and obsessed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think we exhausted this one topic here.
Yeah, as always, please, if anyone has anything to add or different perspectives, or you want to talk about some games that really hooked you, feel free to comment anywhere you find this podcast. Love to hear anyone else's thoughts. But for now, it's time to redeem myself.
Hopefully.
No, it will happen. Just be kind.
I'm just looking for the perfect comment for this one.
Yeah, just in case anyone's wondering, our current score is Paula's on 11 and I'm on 6. So still not, you know, completely out of it, but got a little bit of catching up to do.
Okay, so first of all, this game that I have here is... Where the fuck is the time? Okay, so it's between 12 hours and a half and 14 hours and a half for a single player, according to How Long to Beat.
Okay.
This first completion note that I totally have on the ready, where the fuck it is? Oh my god, I lost it. Where is it? Okay, the first comment is for a main story only, though not really main story because of the comment, but anyway, it is, this person took 12 hours and 48 minutes and said, replayed some scenes, didn't seem to have much of an effect most of the time.
Interesting.
So replayed some
So it
scenes,
sounds like
didn't seem to have much of an effect most of the time.
So it seems like the kind of game where your choices might matter / change the ending or outcomes, but also there are scenes that you can replay, which sounds like a number of games. And scenes specifically, not necessarily chapters.
Yeah, it says scenes.
And I guess that would make sense because like 12 to 14 hours-ish is not that much of a difference. So most playthroughs must be roughly the same time. Not something like Life is Strange.
Not the one. Anyway, the time was for, I guess it was for main story. The one I gave you.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
I mean, yeah, it is for main story. Don't mind me, I'm just being an idiot.
That's okay. I mean, it could be, though, I think it might be a bit longer than that, but it could be something like a heavy rain.
New.
But that does change things significantly, as weird as it is. Replaying scenes. Scenes as well. Like, scenes is a specific kind of word. Could it be... Oh, what's that game? I feel like that's longer. Wouldn't be like the Sexy Brutale.
Nope.
Oh. It's a good game. Trying to think of scenes in where you can change outcomes. Different things can happen. I think I'm going to need more.
Yeah, let me fish for one of the comments.
See, it's almost like there are some games I've played where you play through scenes and you basically don't have much choice except for when you do. So replaying a scene is kind of like you just kind of skip through it and change your choices.
This one might give it away. Let me see if there's another one that has a meaty enough clue.
I mean, I'm okay if you want to give it away. just putting it out there.
Let me check. Nope, that is not the one.
Boy, I enjoyed playing Game Name.
Yeah, like one had the name of the game on the comment, so it was like, nope. Okay, this one is kind of like a combination of many comments echoing the same thing.
Yep.
So all 5 episodes plus the 400 days DLC.
Oh, it's Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. 400 days gave it away. I was beginning to think something like that, but yeah.
Interestingly enough, it was the 400 days DLC and not the 5 episode thing.
Yeah, well, because I happen to have played 400 days, so the 5 episodes made me think, okay, it's definitely an episodic game, which would lead me to Telltale Games or whatever. But yeah, 400 days, I remember being a standalone DLC, little extra story, because, funnily enough, as a series, that's a game that I've played the first Walking Dead, and I've played 400 days, but I haven't played the next 2 games, I think, even though I have them. So I really should get around to playing them one day, because they're really good. But they're kind of scary as well. So. And yeah, the choices are interesting in that too. Like the first comment said where it didn't make huge amounts of difference, and I don't think they do actually. I think the main story is still the main story no matter what. It just kind of, depending on what you do, will change who's there with you at the end, basically.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which is, yeah, it's still fun and it's still good. But yeah, it's not like well, like I guessed Heavy Rain, which of course has lots of problems, but there's a lot more choice in that, and things do change quite drastically. So yeah, anyway, 2 more points. I'm only 3 behind, at least for another week.
Let's see if next week I can make that difference figure.
Yeah, jump ahead some more. No, that's good. That actually got me. Oh, now I want to play the other Walking Dead games. Might have to give them a go. But,
well, I may know what's on your playing list for next week.
Yeah, don't count on it, but it's an idea. Like I say, there are other things. It's that thing as well where I've already started enough. I try not to start new stuff until I've finished other things. But that doesn't always work out. So we'll see. Yeah. I'm trying to finish things before I start other things. But it doesn't always work because there's so much to choose from. And at the end of the day, it's games. We're meant to be having fun. There's no prizes for, doing anything any particular way.
Yeah.
Or maybe there are.
I mean, it would be cool if there were.
Maybe the real twist is when you're on your deathbed, they do tally up your gaming history and reward you accordingly.
With more games. You bring your backlog to the other side.
So Paula's afterlife is going to just be Otome forever.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Of course. But that'll do us for this week. As always, thank you everyone for listening. Please let us know if there's anything you'd like to request, or even something you'd like to hear, something you'd like us to discuss and perhaps even include you in on. That could be fun. But always, leave your comments wherever you find the podcast. And thanks for listening.
Bye.